Welcome to Armchair Expert. I'm Jim Gaffigan, and I'm with Monica Mouse, and our guest is Dax Shepard.
Oh, my God. What
guys.
a chaos.
It's all in a blender. No, Jim Gaffigan will make you laugh again.
That's your saying.
Well, it's not my saying. It's Dan Ferguson's saying.
From Conan O'Brien.
From Conan O'Brien, one of my favorite producers of all time. But Jim Gaffigan will make you laugh again.
He made us laugh again and again.
And again and again. He's so funny. He's a Grammy Award-nominated stand-up comedian, actor, writer, and producer. He's had a lot of incredibly successful stand-up specials. Beyond the Pale, Mr. Universe, Obsessed, Cinco, and Noble Ape. He's got a new special, which is going to be Amazon Prime's first original comedy special called Quality Time, out now on Amazon Prime, and a new movie, American Dreamer. So please laugh again with Jim Gaffigan. But before you commence all the laughing, I do want to announce that Armchair Expert's going on the road again. We're going to have a live show from Nashville on Saturday, November 2nd. At the Andrew Jackson Hall. You know Andrew Jackson, Monica. You've met him, right?
I know. We're good friends.
I think there's a rumor about him that he had a huge wheel of cheese installed at the White House so that when people came to tour it, they could
have some
take
cheese?
off maybe you can fact check that.
I hope it's real. I love cheese.
Yeah. Apparently it was an enormous wheel of cheese. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. We will be in Nashville on November 2nd. Tickets go on sale Friday, September 27th at 10 a.m. Nashville time. You can visit our website at www.armchairexpertpod.com for the ticket link. We hope to see you in Nashville.
He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert.
And how do you two know each other besides the romance?
Yeah,
Well,
mainly the romance.
The romance was first.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
same friendship circle,
Yes.
despite the 12-year difference
Massive
in age.
gap in age.
Who's younger?
That would be mentally.
And then she wanted to pick up some work, so she started babysitting one of her children. Then she came on to work full-time babysitting when we had a second child, or nannying. And then Kristen started asking her to help her schedule. Then we discovered she's a brilliant writer. Then she started writing everything for Kristen. Then she and I started this podcast together a year and a half ago.
Great.
But I like to claim credit for originally recognizing the genius back in the friendship circle.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, you should.
Jim Gaffigan, as Daniel Ferguson from the old Conan years used to say, get Jim Gaffigan and you'll laugh again. That was his saying.
That was the saying?
That was the saying behind the scenes when you do talk shows. You're like one of the most dependable, consistent, great talk show guests.
Oh my gosh, that's
You
so
know this
flattering.
about yourself. You must.
Well, I try to be consistent. I think it's important. You know, there's a strange pressure when you're on those shows. It's like, I remember going on Letterman, and he would sometimes...
As a guest or doing stand-up?
As a guest.
Right.
And he would just look at me, because I got to know him, but he would give me a look of like, go.
Right.
And some of it would be... I got to know him a little bit. I watched his show my entire life, and I could see when he was in a bad mood. And when he was in a bad mood, he'd be like, just go. You be funny.
Yeah.
And
I'm going
I'll
to check
kind
out
of-
for a second.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
because it's like those talk show hosts, sometimes dealing with the audience, it's a conversation. And sometimes the conversation, they're not enjoying it.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
they look to the guest. It's fascinating to see the unfair evaporation of power that position had.
Mm.
When I started in stand-up in the early 1800s, there was, appearing on
It was
the
you,
Tonight Show.
John Wilkes Booth.
It was me, John Wilkes Booth, a great acting family.
Not
Oh,
a clean
yeah.
comic like you, but a
He
great
was
comic.
very dirty. He did stuff that was slightly racist.
Yes.
But, we would pal around with Ty Cobb. And but the power of that show and the impact, even when there wasn't social media, you could sell tickets being on a late night show. And then now podcasts what I'm trying to say is that you're really powerful.
Good. I was hoping that all roads would lead to an evaluation of my power. But I will say you were really at the end of when that could happen, like where you could go on Letterman or Johnny Carson or Leno and overnight become a name. You were probably the last chapter of that, don't you think?
Well, I feel as though people coming to see me was a result of Comedy Central, like the peak of Comedy Central when Chappelle and Jon Stewart were these anchor shows, and when cable viewership was probably at its peak. Like every dorm room when Beyond the Pale, my first special, aired was turned to Comedy Central. Like when I went to college, they didn't have cable. Like you could have cable if you were rich, or if there was cable in a dorm situation, it would be on MTV.
Right.
You know, watching videos. But like now it's like college dorm rooms, they don't have screens in the sitting area. They have their own screens
in their hand.
Yeah.
And although, so probably peak viewership and everything for you, and the biggest boost to your touring was probably your first comedy special on Comedy Central.
Yes, absolutely.
But don't you think being on Letterman played a big role in opening the door to Comedy Central?
Absolutely. You were anointed. If you got on Letterman and you did well, and, you know, I did my appearance on Letterman, and after that appearance, then they were like, we want to do a development deal with you. And so it was just like, wow.
And you had tried for 6 years to get on to Letterman,
yes.
correct?
I tried forever, and I was the last of my peers or my generation of comedy buddies to get on a late night show. Like I literally had to come to the conclusion I might never achieve any success in stand-up comedy, but I truly love doing it, so therefore I'm just going to do it and not have an expectation that I would have any success.
Do you know, you're one of the only people I've talked to that had the exact same thought as I did, which was,
Really?
I'm not going to make it. I'm just preventing a bad regret. Like, I will hate myself if I don't pursue this thing. But at year 9, when, you know, peers of mine who went to the same college are buying speedboats and like cabins in Big Bear, I have nothing. And I'm like, wow, probably not going to happen, but I can't imagine wanting to succeed at something else.
I had so much, well, I had a taste of it. And I was so lost in my early 20s. Like I studied finance in college.
Well, you have a really interesting road en route to doing stand-up, which...
It was not one of those things where I grew up. You're from the Midwest too, right?
Yes, and in fact, eerily close.
We grew
really.
up in the same house.
We grew up in the same house.
Wow.
Didn't bump into each other until you were on your way out to go to college. But no, you grew up in northern Indiana, right?
Yeah.
Very close to Lake Michigan.
Yes.
We were just there, Monica and I, and Wobby Wob, and my wife and kids, and we rented a place real close to where you grew up, Stevensville. Do you know St. Joseph, Michigan?
Yeah. I'm going there. My niece is getting married there, so I'm going to be going there.
Oh, yeah. It's so beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you grew up just south of all the sand dunes that are along Lake Michigan?
Yeah, well, right in Indiana Dunes. So it was like where I grew up in Northwest Indiana, there was people from Chicago would drive through Indiana to get to beautiful Michigan. No one would stay in Indiana.
Let's be fair. They would throw a bag or two of McDonald's out the window route.
It was the road. Indiana was the road to Michigan. But now Indiana Dunes, very prestigious.
Oh, is it? Have they built up that area?
It's gained a lot of prestige. Like I think there was a New York Times article.
Oh, no.
So therefore it makes it an important place.
It is weird that it's identical in all ways, all measurable ways, to southern western Michigan and eastern southern Illinois.
But I think it's all fascinating. I mean, this is where I'm a nerd on this stuff. But when I was a kid, Michigan was the star of the Midwest.
Wow.
People, you have to understand, the city of Detroit has lost 70% of its population. You have to understand, it was the 5th largest city in the country. And I grew up in a Rust Belt area, economic devastation. So,
are your parents from the South originally? Did they migrate north?
No, they're from Iowa and Illinois.
Okay.
But Michigan was a real, Like it had all the manufacturing jobs.
Yes, my grandparents left Kentucky to come up for those jobs.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, we were just talking about it at
we're
lunch.
white trash together.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot
I'm
of these.
from Georgia. I'm trash too,
Yeah,
but not white.
But you're a fancy trash. You're a different type of trash.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
her mom's a computer programmer, and her dad is an
Okay,
engineer.
fine,
So
There's nothing trash
fine,
about that.
Fine.
There's no like.
I mean,
All
your
right.
your family did move north at one point, but quite a
did.
bit north.
They did.
But
They
like,
had a
how many
large travel.
generations? Like, my father was the first one to go to college in his family.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's that. Like when I said that I wanted to be a comedian, there was a little bit of like, do you know how long it took us to get to the middle class?
Yeah.
It took us a long time to get here. Like we
Yeah.
were coal miners and we were, really kind of bar people.
Yeah.
It's like it took us a while. And I
Yeah,
was
give
like,
your
I'm
body to the career.
Yeah.
And there's nothing left of the body
Yeah.
at the end of the career.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and you're the youngest of 6.
I am.
But when we look at these models,
Yeah.
they hold pretty true when you have friends and you're like find out their birth order. To me, it seems to generally hold true. I don't even know where you put number 6. It's like a baby on a baby on a baby. So you
Well,
like a mega baby?
I went through, I did research on this when I was in my 20s, and supposedly there's one theory that the family dynamic is only through 4 kids and then it repeats.
I would buy
That's
that.
interesting.
Yeah, so then it's,
The 5th born is like a firstborn somehow.
so like the 5th born is more responsible. So essentially it's 2 kids. So then I'm the youngest
Right.
of those 2 kids.
Okay.
So I don't know. That was a book I read when I was 23.
In my white trash town, I say that
Yeah.
with love in my
What
heart.
was the name of the town?
Well, a couple. I was
Yeah.
spent my formative years in Highland and Milford, Michigan, which is all generally people are employed by the big 3 in some capacity,
Okay.
generally blue collar, 30 minutes out of Detroit.
Oh, yeah. So Detroit area.
But it is interestingly right where the suburbs end and then like cornfield starts.
Yeah, that's the same where I was.
Okay, so you got proper hillbillies. Like kids got on the bus with shit all over their boots because they've been up since 4:30 cleaning a barn.
Well, there was, like I remember there were summers where I would go to a party. One party I would be in a trailer. And the next party, I would be sitting on a bale of hay. Like, I remember sitting on a bale of hay going, you guys, we're sitting on a bale of hay, and we could see Chicago in the distance.
Oh,
and I would try and convince my friends, let's drive to Chicago. And they're like, I don't know. I don't know.
So that was going to be one of my questions, but let me hold on to that just for 1 second, because back to the birth order thing.
Yeah.
In my town, when there was more than 3 boys in a family, the 4th was definitely going to jail or juvie. I mean, they were crazy because to compete with those other older 4 boys, they just got progressively crazier and crazier.
Oh, that's interesting.
What was the male-female breakdown of these 6?
It was 4 boys and 2 girls, but the 2 oldest were the girls.
Okay, so it was really 4 boys in a row.
It was 4 boys, but it's, I mean, I've thought a lot about this. It's interesting because I have this new special, but I'm always writing a new one. So in my new material, I've been talking about like my upbringing. The craziness, like I was the youngest, but also I have 3 boys too. And they're absolutely crazy.
Uh-huh.
And I look at them and I'm like, I was never that crazy.
Oh, okay. So you
I
guys
was
were
not that crazy. I was definitely highly impressionable, but my oldest brother, he was the black sheep of the family.
Okay.
He was the outlier. So like my dad was the first one to go to college, and they were kind of this Irish Catholic family that wanted to be kind of Kennedy-like.
Sure.
And so my brother was like, the first car he got was a pickup. He
went the other way.
So he rebelled by going, no, this is what I am.
I'm country.
And so I'm country.
Mm-hmm.
Like dipping. He was,
sure.
he dipped, I dipped, we all, like it's Indiana, you're dipping. You know
Yes,
what I
you
mean?
are.
And so,
Can I tell you, the very first time I chewed tobacco was detasseling corn in White Pigeon, Indiana.
Oh, wow.
And one of the other kids, all the 14-year-old kids all had a serious chewing tobacco habit, and none of the parents cared. And my cousin and I started like, hey, well, yeah, let's try that. And that's where I started in
by the
Indiana.
way, did you get an incredible high?
I was started with the Redmond or the Beech Nut, which is wad of tobacco in the cheek. And no, I thought, oh, this is great. This is very manageable. And then my crew leader, who was like a 38-year-old dude who loved 38 Special and was a stud, he gave me some Copenhagen, and I ended up on my back just staring up at the corn stalks, going like, when did I get here? How long have I been laying here? And yeah, it was very disoriented.
No, the first time I did dip was with my brothers, and this is like I never thought I'd talk about this on a podcast. It's like, is that I was with them, and my older brother Mike said, spit every time you taste something, or you will get sick. And so I kept spit. It's so funny. Even though you're from Georgia, she has that look on her face
it's preposterous.
Well, look, I mean, can we you're dipping right now.
Yes,
and you dip a lot.
Yes, I had quit for 7 years. Yeah. I stupidly found my way back while trying to quit other nicotine. Now I've been on back and forth, month on, month off.
I'm addicted to the nicotine gum.
I'm addicted to all forms of nicotine. So here's the lozenges. I have the gum, and I'm just trying not to smoke. It's been 15 years.
But is it the nicotine or is it the ritual?
Or both? Or does it got to be one or the other?
Yeah, it's so interesting. And well, let's talk about this. So you've talked a little bit about, we're talking about like a highly addictive personality, right?
Yeah.
And I'm somebody who deals with, in my eating is like, it's one of the pieces of my comedy, but it really is addictive behavior.
Right.
So as a parent, aren't you terrified? Terrified.
Well,
or do you think that like, oh no, it's not going to happen?
No, I mean, my current estimation is that one of the two of them will definitely be in a treatment center at some point. And I think it's just a part of a whole suite of behavior. And I like a lot of that behavior. And I guess I'm cool with the reality that to get that, you might have that as well.
It's interesting.
Do you, of course, without singling out one of your kids, do you feel like one and or more of them have your predilection for obsessive?
My wife, when we were dating, it was a joke. Like, oh, we're both crazy. If we have kids, if we get married, our kids will be crazy. Like, it was this running joke.
Yeah.
And our first kid she's like an angel. Then the rest of them, just crazy. And I've got 5 of them. And so it is one of those things where, I mean, I grew up in this Irish Catholic family where I was literally pouring drinks for my dad when I was 10.
Sure.
I was like, you want a scotch? Here you go, Dad. You know what I mean? I was getting them packed. I was sent to the grocery store to buy cigarettes when I was 8.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I don't say that like I'm so wounded by that. I'm just saying that like the experience that my children have, just like also like, dealing with depression and anger and stuff like that. Like when I was growing up, that was like part of being a boy. Is that you were angry,
Sure.
Whereas now, like I even joke around about it in my act. It's like my dad never went to a parent-teacher conference. My dad didn't know I went to school. So it's like there's a level of involvement which is so dramatically different, but how much of it is nature and how much of it is nurture, I don't know.
Right. And, almost every debate we end up having on here with like the professors that come in and stuff is like, it's definitely some ratio and no one knows.
Right.
In 1 month, it's pointing more and more to nurture, and then 1 month it's nature. Depending on what study came out that month. But did you see 3 Identical Strangers?
Yeah. I mean, I love that movie, but there is part of me that's like, documentaries, you construct a narrative.
Oh, yeah.
It's how Nazis use propaganda. Do you know what I mean? It's how, we motivated our troops in World War II to believe that the Japanese were monsters. You know what I mean? It is. So, like, I do sit there and I look at documentaries, and every now and then I'm like, how much are they crafting this?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I even feel that way even in, I'm somebody who consumes a lot of news. And I always sit there and try and cut it in half. And I go, if I cut it in half and I still think that, I'm like, that's pretty bad. Do you know what I mean? Like in this day that we live in, it's like if you cut all the bad news in half, you cut the school shootings in half, it's still horrifying.
Yeah. It's still rough. It's still very rough. I'll tell you the moment I had watching documentaries, which made me admit that, was Who Killed the Electric Car? Now, I happen to have the very unique experience of having worked for General Motors for 14
Yeah.
years, so I know what happens to all cars that are in a press fleet. They all end up getting smashed. They all get put in the crusher because it's cheaper to get that tax write-off for full value than sell a car with miles on it with an extended warranty.
They do that with clothing, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've driven many cars to the crusher in my youth. And the whole smoking gun of that documentary, Who Killed the Electric Car, is they catch like aerial photograph of them putting the electric car into a crusher to destroy the evidence. And I was like, wow, if I didn't know a lot about this, I would be buying in hook, line, and sinker. Like, well, that's red-handed. I'm watching them drive the thing into the crusher and make it disappear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was the time where I was like, oh, maybe I need to be a hair more critical about my conclusions I accept from these. But I'm a junkie anyways for documentaries. I just love them.
Love it.
Okay, back to Indiana.
Yeah.
Now, just to bring everyone up to speed, do you remember the first time we met? I do. Not to put you on the spot.
Was it on the airplane?
Yes, it was on the airplane. And you and I were seated next to each other on a long flight from LA to New York.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I start with insecurity. I'm like, well, I recognize him. I doubt he recognizes me.
Yeah.
And then
It's
I think
the story of my life, by the way.
Everyone's life, everyone's doing that, unless, well, with the exception of some egos.
hopefully Brad Pitt's like, they know who I am. This person knows who I am.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I think you started right off with, you said hi or something. I said hi as I like your stuff. And then you quoted a tweet of mine back to me.
Oh, wow.
You said, I am owner of many guns, but I also wish they would all go away, or something like that.
Right,
you had remembered
right.
some gun tweet of mine.
Yeah.
And then we just shot the shit, I think effortlessly for 5 hours.
Yeah,
I really
definitely.
enjoyed sitting next to you. And I've always had kind of like a great feeling about you ever since. What I was shocked to learn about you is like football was your life early on, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's interesting because also being a parent, because I think I was raised to believe that sports is what kept me out of trouble. Sports is where I learned about community and the importance of teamwork. And then I turn and I've got my kids, and I also know that, you can't force them to do anything. So, like, particularly my two older ones, I was like, all right, we're going to do soccer, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And one of them kind of got into it. The other one just deeply resented every kind of athletic move. So it did make me think, like, were athletics as important and positive the experience was it just because my older brother loved football?
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, because I did a lot of things that he did. I mean, I know that half my childhood, my mother dressed us the same. He was essentially an Irish twin, So it's weird because I have this, like there's the answer I would give if I was talking on a sports podcast. And then there's also like, because I feel as though, I'm a creative person, but I feel like it was not encouraged. And I'm sure it's the same with you. No one I grew up with was anywhere close to the entertainment industry. Maybe you did know.
No.
But like my town, the closest thing was the marching band.
Sure.
And
or that Gary, Indiana was semi-close.
Yeah.
And
And that was kind of, but it was, I remember seeing John Mellencamp on SNL when I was little. I remember watching David Letterman and thinking, oh, who did they know to get, like, I just didn't think it was.
Because he's from Indiana as well, right?
Yeah. I didn't think it was a realistic pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of a pipe dream. It was kind of like being an
Let's get
astronaut.
real. I live in Los Angeles. I have 2 kids. Both their parents are in show business, and I still would think their chances are very nil.
Oh, it's, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and we're as connected as you could be. So, of course, if I was a parent in Michigan, I'd be like, yeah, that's cute. You are funny, but let's get real.
Oh, well, I had this conversation with someone recently. Like, Dead Poets Society, how, I know that the dad was a bad guy, but he was kind of being cautious.
What did he say?
I don't remember the
He just didn't want them to get swept up in all this
post.
poetry. And,
Do you know what I mean? And the pursuit of being an actor, and then I don't even remember the movie. Didn't that guy kill himself or something like that? He's like, I
Yeah.
want to be an actor. If I can't be an actor, I'm killing myself.
Right.
First of all, that's horrible.
right.
You know?
Right.
But it's like the dad's like,
You lose all the roles you're not alive to audition for. That's that old axiom.
it's like, because I think there was also this belief that show people were kind of like grifters but like where we grew up, it was just like, no, you don't have a shot.
Right.
You don't have a shot.
Yes, you're going to be penniless and homeless.
You could take a bus to LA and be a prostitute.
Yeah, that's true. That's where everyone was going to end up for sure, or addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
Which in my case was the reality. But you had to be good at football in high school because you ended up playing in college, which to my understanding is very hard.
But I walked on at Purdue. I don't want to misrepresent it like, I was a football star and I had a scholarship.
Yeah.
And then when I went to Georgetown, it was Division III. And when I quit, I was starting, but it was Division III. Like there are really good high school teams that can beat some Division III football
really?
teams. Yeah.
Okay. In what position were you playing?
I was center.
That means you snap the ball. I know very little about football.
Yeah.
So you would snap the ball and you are taking the first hit, basically. I mean, everyone's coming through you.
Yeah.
Do you ever freak out that you may have CTE or anything?
I mean, there were plenty of headaches that I just dealt with.
Sure.
Yeah.
Blurriness
But,
of vision.
But there's, linemen if they're not getting that long hit that a receiver.
That's true. No one's going 20 miles an hour. They're also like 300 pounds plus.
Yeah, they're big people.
Yeah.
And when I quit, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I
Right.
just remember, my first job out of college.
Well, really quick, you got a degree in finance, right?
In finance. Because I was essentially, raised like, you should do this. And I'm like, I don't know, should I do that? And so I got this degree in finance and I got a job in Tampa as a legal consultant where I would calculate law claims. It sounds fascinating.
At 22.
At 22.
And you're in Tampa.
And I was in Tampa and I remember, this shows you how old I am. I wrote an episode of Miami Vice.
Oh, wonderful.
I wrote an episode of Miami Vice.
You're very close to it at that point.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to portray myself as the drug lord. I'll write an episode. This is how, because by the way, everyone in the entertainment industry is delusional. So
Yeah, it starts with delusion.
I'm very much delusional at this point and still delusional. But I remember I had this mini cassette recorder that I would talk into. And I would say, I don't know what I'm going to do. But because I essentially followed the rules that everyone was supposed to do. I studied hard. I went to a good college. I did the major you're supposed to. I was making decent money. And I was miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
Were you
I got to
single
figure
at this
this out.
time?
I was single.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because a good woman could have got you through that. A good woman could have been a real detriment to your overall future at that moment, right?
I don't think that's true.
Okay.
And that's not just, maybe I'm not enough of a romantic, but I think that I'm so happy doing stand-up and acting. Like people that retire, are like, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's not as if I'm doing it for the money. Like coming up with an idea, as much as you might wake up and go, I got to do this podcast, when you're done with it, you've created something.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you've helped someone, but like more, it's the creative juice, the creative fulfillment. And so like, that's when I was 22. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that there was this creative outlet that was really empty.
Right. And so you're just kind of angsty and uncomfortable.
Yeah, miserable.
And are you drinking a lot then? Are you doing anything to alleviate that?
I was working out a lot.
Oh, you were? Okay. You must have had like really powerful thighs. I have chicken legs, but as a center...
I was in great shape, and I did have a girlfriend at the time who I think she was... So I was 22. I think she was like 33.
Oh, good for you.
And she
What a
was...
move.
And it was one of those things where I never brought up how old I was.
Okay.
And then she would talk about her brother, who was like 24, and she'd be like, he's so immature and all this
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
And then she found out my age, and she was very frustrated.
Okay.
But
Sounds like it's a little bit on her. She could have asked you.
yeah, but I could have been more forthright.
Although
you know.
in her defense, have you seen these college football players? They look, even when I watch college, I'm like, these guys still look older than me, even though they're 25 years younger than me. They just look, they have beards and shit, and they're humongous. It's a little misleading.
But she assumed.
She did.
She made some assumptions.
But I could have clarified a couple times.
You knew better than to tell her, which lets us
knew
know
better.
everything we need to
I
know.
knew better.
Yes.
I knew that she was.
And would you go to her home and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
She
Did
owned a home. And
Was she divorced?
no, she was a single, successful person, and I was.
What a mature
I lived in
relationship.
an apartment, and we met at the gym, and then it's so funny. I haven't even thought about this. And then, but we would go to this fancy restaurant.
Drink wine.
Yeah, drink wine.
Yes.
and like
I love
it was
this.
like the first time I was like, this French food's good.
This is like a romance
Like,
novel.
I'm coming from college where I was like eating mac and cheese. I was like, this stuff's good.
Yeah, it's
But-
flavorful.
She was great, but I was miserable. Like,
Can I ask you a really
yeah.
lowbrow question?
Yeah.
Was she very advanced sexually at that point? Like, I just imagine being 22 and settling up with a 33-year-old homeowner, and I just feel like she'd be very confident.
Yeah, I'm sure that she was probably like, this guy's pretty lame. But
Wish she could put these big thighs into it. Jesus.
she and I do shows in Tampa, and I'm like, I wonder if she's
Sure. Well, now she's in her 60s.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. There's one more lowbrow question. Because I'm just now putting myself in her shoes.
Yeah.
If I'm 33, I meet this 22-year-old buck, I'm lying to myself intentionally and acting like he's 28.
I would say I've always looked older.
I believe
I've
that. I believe
always,
you.
Like when I was, you get scripts all the time. Like it's like you get a script and they're like I was going to do this movie this summer, but it coincided with a family vacation where I would play a grandpa.
Oh, geez.
Oh.
Okay.
And I was like it's in the script. It's like he's a grandpa and he's there with his grandma and he's there with his wife. And I'm like, but like as a character actor, you've dealt with enough of this. You've dealt with enough of like his ugly friend. And you're
Sure,
I guess
sure.
I'm auditioning to be the ugly friend.
Oh, yeah. It's a real demoralizing
But
process.
you become very self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was on that 70s show and my niece, who is getting married again in Michigan in October, she was a little girl and she was like, why do you play a nerdy guy?
Oh, sure.
She was like, why are you playing a nerdy guy? And I'm like, what's wrong with that? That's the funniest character to play.
Yeah.
And she's like, but you should be cool. Don't you want to be cool? And I'm like, I just want to work.
Well, first
But
of all,
she
yes,
was
I would
12.
love to
Yeah.
be cool.
Yeah.
That ship sailed, and now I want to make a living.
And now I want to play a complex, interesting character.
Yes.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
But back to her.
Yeah.
Now that you reflect back on it, or was there like an inordinate amount of requests that you like pick her up or anything?
Oh, lifting up.
Yeah,
No.
like if I'm her and I see this strong buck right out of college in the football program, I'm like, I'm going to be in the air the whole time for this. Do you see what I'm saying, Monica? A little
Met her
bit.
at the gym.
no.
She was in
Okay.
amazing
That's a
shape
strange
herself.
Okay, so she might have picked
It
you up.
was, and by the way, when I was leaving for New York, she's like, you're just going to move to New York and get fat. And she was right.
What a kind thing for her
But I
to say to a
did find what I
22-year-old.
wanted to do in New York. I
What-
didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I would figure it out in New York.
Okay, so you leave Tampa
Yes.
after how many years? Just
I was
a
there
year?
just a year.
Okay. I have to imagine too lonely other than because
Oh, it was very brutal.
Yeah.
Very brutal.
you didn't say, were you drinking a lot to just deal with it? Never
not
your
too much
jam?
because I don't drink and drive, so it's
Okay.
like none of that.
Well,
really.
you missed out.
Yeah.
There was a whole era you were allowed to do it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yes. First half of every work shift was like guys explaining, like, I don't know how the fuck I got home. And that was a great story back
No,
then.
my father. There would be like, yeah, he drove home drunk and he dented the car, and it wasn't kind of like how embarrassing. It was like, yeah, that's what happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
My dad, he was a tremendous car salesman. And Ford had this competition. Whoever sold the most Ford trucks in a year got a free LTD. And my father got 3 free LTDs over the course of like 4 years. And he rolled all 3 of these LTDs within the first few months of owning them. We had totaled LTDs that were brand new, like 600 miles on them, in our front yard because he'd get shit-faced and put it in a ditch and end up upside down. And again, none of the neighbors were like, why the hell did, it was, everyone was doing it.
It's so interesting that as a culture, we essentially eliminated drunk driving. It is completely socially unacceptable to do it.
Thank God, yeah.
And there's other stuff we're like, can't figure that one out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was, I don't know. That's why I'm running for president, because I'm going to solve this.
I can't wait
Great.
for you to do it.
Yeah.
Take your time, though, because I like kind of a long, multi-episode arc.
Yeah.
I don't want you to do it like day 10 of being in office.
Yeah.
Just give me some drama along the way.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it around, re-election.
Okay.
You know
You
what I mean?
pop
I'm
in
like,
at the last
and then I'll
minute.
just blame it. I'm like, I can't get it done. It's these people.
So you move up to New York, and do you go there with a job opportunity in finance?
I had a friend from college who helped me get a job in advertising.
Oh, right. Advertising.
And I was an account guy, so I was a suit guy. And so, my progression to creativity was very slow. I was an account guy, and then I worked in advertising, and eventually I had this boss, and she was like, I don't know if I should fire you or make you a copywriter. She was an amazing woman. And she goes, I'm going to make you a copywriter. And so this incredible gift. I had already started stand-up. I was trying to get fired. And she goes, I'm going to make you a copywriter. So then being a copywriter, I learned a lot about writing and efficiency of writing. And I mean, advertising's brutal. And then eventually I got laid off. They had to wake me up to lay me off in advertising because I would...
You were out at night doing both acting classes and stand-up, correct?
Yes. I would leave work, go to an acting class, and then I would go and hang out and do stand-up, and I would have to go on much later at night. And then I would sometimes sleep in, or I would make it in, and then I would shut my door and I would sleep.
Sure.
And I would smoke. You used to smoke at work.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one of the nicest
I used to
parts.
smoke on stage. People, there's videos of me smoking doing stand-up, and my wife discovered them, and she's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it looks crazy now, right?
It's just insane.
Yeah.
I would be doing a 10-minute set, and I would be smoking a cigarette.
Well, think of Dennis Leary. Think of, just one after another, bang, bang, bang. Yeah.
Just insane.
Always one lit. Now, if I have this right, your first 7 years doing stand-up, you're trying a bunch of different things,
Yes. Yeah.
In your road to becoming you and finding, I guess, your voice, what acts did you try on?
I would say that, trying on all these things, but the biggest hurdle was overwhelming stage fright. Dramatic stage fright. I was so jealous of my friends that had a bar mitzvah because I knew that at bar mitzvah you gave a speech and you killed. Everyone kills at their bar mitzvah, so I was always jealous. But I was mostly dealing with stage fright, so I would try on different things. I would try angry. I would try energetic. First time I did stand up, it's on the DVD, not that anyone buys DVDs anymore, of Beyond the Pale. I put my first set on there, and it's essentially what I do right now. But I thought that I had to do something else. So I did political. You did
impressions, right?
I did impressions.
Who did you do? Because when I read that, I immediately, of course, want to hear you do someone you did.
Jimmy Stewart would talk like this a little bit. You got to understand, your money's not in Bill's house. Potter's not selling, Potter's buying.
I'm definitely going to try that when I get home.
But what other ones?
Monica, welcome to your new hell.
Yeah.
Say that word again. You're doing an impression of Jimmy Stewart now. No one even knows who he is.
No, it's the most useless impression because who knows? Maybe I'm doing it better. Maybe you're.
Lancaster.
Oh, wow.
You talk like this, and then you talk like that.
Oh, that's nice.
And so, but I did a lot of my, even when I was a little kid, I did an impression of my dad.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you guys have similar voices?
No, my dad, he smoked a lot more.
Oh,
so
wow.
It was much deeper.
Wow.
And what's your name, Dix? Dax Shepard.
Yeah, Dax.
Shepard.
Yeah, Dax
Shepard.
Yes, Dax Shepard.
Shepard.
Yeah. What's your name again?
Mike.
Oh, Mike. Okay, not Michael, Mike.
You can call me Mike.
Okay, I'll do that because the tenor of your voice has me a little scared.
What the hell is wrong with the yard? What is your name?
Monica.
Monica sounds exotic.
Well, yeah.
But so it's interesting.
How did you get on with your dad?
I mean, it was complex because I think that I see it in my children, kind of this, how old are your kids?
4 and 6, and they're both girls.
Okay,
Lucky
so,
for me.
yeah. But like there's kind of like this developmental age where children get caught up. It's like the injustice. Like, why do I have to go to bed? Like, I see my 8-year-old getting into this. He's like, you're not the boss of me. And then you're like, I am the boss. And they're like, but you work for mom. And so but like for my father, I was definitely always questioning authority. And my siblings and my mom was like, you're not going to change him. And I'm like, I don't care if I change him. This is wrong. And so it was very much that. And it was, I wouldn't say it was combative, but it's so strange because it was one of those things where he was of a different era. I mean, your dad was from a different era too, where it was dad's home. I did an episode of the Jim Gaffigan show. My wife actually wrote it and directed the episode, but it's all about my dad. I played my dad, and then my son played me.
Oh, no kidding.
It's called the Mike Gaffigan
That could almost
show.
be like an hour session in a therapy room.
Right.
Yeah, like where you role play.
And by the way, my son, who is amazing, who also has a little bit of me, like, don't tell me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And because people don't think that I'm like that, but I'm very much have a problem with authority.
Yeah.
I very much, and people are like, oh, you're the clean comic. But it's like, I still resent authority.
Sure.
And so like, I even sometimes think like the fact that even the normalcy of being a comedian, I rebel against. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, as comedian, you're not supposed to do this. You're supposed to do this and this. And I inherently kind of go against that.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of resistant to groups. Like, I have friends, but like, it's like, we're all gonna go to a Yankees game. I'm like, I'm not going. Do you know what I mean? It's a strange thing.
Sure.
So
it's almost like you just have this punk rock strain with no real objective.
Obviously, it's not punk rock, but you know what I'm saying.
But yes,
it's
I totally do.
It's a little
but
bit
I wonder,
of,
like, so my really, when I really drill into it, it's, or maybe I'm just telling myself this, but I feel like from a very young age, I was like, why do we all do this? So church, the fact that you were Catholic, I used to have to go to Catholic service with my grandparents. And I was just like, for me, it felt like madness. And why is everyone agreeing to this? And no one likes it. And if they say they like it, they're lying. Right. And why is everyone ignoring that no one wants to be here? But everyone, I was consumed by those thoughts. Or why on earth is this new stepdad going to tell us how we go to bed now? This doesn't make sense. You had a very hard time getting with the program.
Let me
to my detriment.
Let me break some of this down, because I actually think that, I mean, I'm a comedian, which is kind of by nature kind of suspicious and cynical and questioning. And so like, I lived across from the church I eventually got married in. And, like when I was dating my girlfriend, who then became my wife, and she was kind of Catholic, not as Catholic as she became, I was very kind of like, come on, exactly what you're saying. But the individual path to all of this, to your recovery, to my belief system, to her, exotic dancing, it is all very unique. Recovery in itself, the idea of a higher power, isn't that? I mean, obviously, everyone has their own definition of a higher power, but that is like the failings of the Catholic Church, the bureaucracy, the horrible things that have occurred because of that name are human failings. Mm-hmm. That is not the personal philosophy that I adhere to. Mm-hmm. The personal philosophy that I adhere to which is the equivalent of a higher power, I would think, is something very personal. You know what I mean? And it's weird. And like I said earlier, I almost wonder if it's my way of saying, you know what, the most rebellious thing to do is to like say I believe in God, because it sounds anti-intellectual. And it's characterized as anti-intellectual, but it is, you know, my personal journey to that, which I never thought I would. I lived across from this church for 15 years, never went in it. And then I ended up getting married in it.
Right. And as a kid, it would have been contrarian to not accept it all. But now as a working comedian, it's probably quite contrarian to be into it. Yeah.
And so, by the way, it's also complex. It's not as if I don't doubt all of it.
Right.
It's not as if I don't cringe at the news articles. It's not as if I don't see the hypocrisy of it all. You know, for me, it's how I keep in touch with a certain level of humility. It's like,
right.
If you talk to me in a week, my association with it would be different. I mean, my wife almost died, and it's like...
Of what?
Of a brain tumor.
Oh, my goodness.
I think that humans, you know, we kind of have these moments of where people are dying, and we behave completely differently. You know, like friends that are devout atheists are like, I'm praying for Jeannie. And I didn't sit there and go, hey, I thought you were an atheist. You know what I mean? Because you know, I also understand that people choosing not to believe in something is something very valuable. They should be able to do that. But I do think that it's everyone's individual journey, as long as you don't push that shit on someone else.
Yeah. Or
Anyway.
legislate it.
But
or
when I was the same kid that was in church going, this is the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
This is like a meeting of people with bad breath. What are we doing here?
Yes.
So, but some of it is, I don't know.
It is interesting. Now, I can say, like, so for me, meetings, that's basically my inroad to recognizing the value of coming together as a community. I get a ton out of that.
Yeah.
Fellowship, right? Like I can see the value of community. I think, you know, evolutionarily, we've got a lot of evidence that we're a social animal that should be gathering in that fashion. So that I find immense joy in, and I can see the value of it. And the higher power thing for me is simply something makes the sun come up and go down. It's not me, but that's as far as I'll
when you
take
say
it.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and the courage to change, who is that?
It's nobody.
It's nobody.
No, me personally, I believe that I know when I'm in self-will. I know it. I can feel it. I know when I'm trying to bend the rest of the world around me to fit into my will. I don't actually need God to tell me when that is.
But would you say you're atheist or agnostic?
I say I'm atheist. Now, would I be delighted if I looked in my backyard and Jesus was levitating? I'd be so.
It doesn't have to be Jesus, but what you're describing, I think. By the way, I can't believe this is that one. I just wanted to promote my amateur special, but I think that there's.
You came
by the
to
way,
the
can I
wrong
also
show,
say
Jim.
something?
Yeah.
These are the conversations that I love.
Me too.
It's why I love comedians, because I have friends that are Occupy Wall Street. I have a friend who works at Fox News. And it's like, even I say that, and people are like, really? But the thing is, it's like, I like different opinions.
Yeah.
I'm not seeking orthodoxy or agreement.
No, I'd be bored out of my mind.
Right?
If you thought the exact same way I did, I wouldn't want to talk to you.
But like, I do think that there is something about the questioning. It's like, I think that humans, because we're touching on the same thing, whether there is someone in that position of higher power, it's about a powerlessness, right?
Yes, I believe in humility and powerlessness.
And when I am frustrated and angry, I'm angry because I believe I somehow have control over this situation. And that's
where all the uncomfortableness comes from.
That's where but when I'm in touch with the fact that I should be focusing on gratitude, that's when I feel happier.
Me too. And when I recognize I'm one of 7 billion ants that are literally trying to stay busy until we die.
Right.
That's what's happening.
Well,
Or
it also-
just staying
Prozac
busy.
also helps too.
Well, one thing I was going to say, because you asked if he was an atheist or agnostic, which atheism is as definitive as a devout believer.
Well,
So-
I don't believe that. Yes, in some ways I agree with you, but I think in other ways some people that are, I think it's a big spectrum, let's say that. And I think there's a big sector of the agnostics that are like, I know something's out there, but I don't know what.
Right.
So I'm not there
I
because
just
I don't
think-
believe there's something
But
out
also
there.
they're saying, I don't
but
know.
it-
But I'm not arrogant enough to think that I might not be proven wrong. I simply
Right.
don't know. And it's leaning to me, if I evaluate the proof, that there's nothing there.
Here's what I wanted to say. It's like, can we all agree that human beings have this generation by generation arrogance that is so baffling? Like, they used to put leeches on people to heal them. Those were the smartest people in society. They're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to bleed this person. That was the smartest thing of that day.
Right.
And so when we have this belief that we have figured it out, no one wants to say, I don't know.
Right. I'm very comfortable saying I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think,
that's why we're running together as president.
yes.
Wait, I have a question. Was there a moment, was there a shift, like an actual moment where you were like, I'm going to walk into the church, or I'm going to...
Well, it's not, it's weird because it's so loaded. Because I used to have jokes about how the Catholic Church is like being a Cubs fan. It's just, now the Cubs won the World Series. So it's like, it doesn't matter. But some of it for me is I need the idea, not so much that someone or something can forgive me, but that something's on my side. Here, let me draw this analogy. I think also talking about a faith or a belief system is just as ineffective as listing the topics of a comedy special. Because if you list the topics of a comedy special, it sounds stupid.
Right. Like, you got to watch Seinfeld. It's about traffic and then
And then
tide.
he talks about his appendix.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it sounds horrible. So my personal understanding, some of it is forgiveness. Like, I had to get to the point where I've done bad things. I've murdered people.
Right.
No, I've
Yeah.
done bad things. And instead of like in this cycle of kind of like, I'm a bad person, therefore I can do other bad things, I had to be like, no, you know what? I am going to embrace the fact that I can be forgiven for things.
All right, right. So we have a very similar hope for people, right? Which is, you said I've done bad things. I do bad things. I currently do bad things. I'm going to do bad things until I'm dead.
Right.
And I've done horrendous things in the past
Yeah.
when I was an addict. But I would argue that because everyone's lying, they deal in shame and they can't wait to shame someone, whether it's a neighbor or someone in the community
Social media.
or social
Right.
media or that because there's no safe haven for being flawed, that we had to have this bigger being that was benevolent and could forgive us. And actually, I think it's a medication for treating the symptom. I feel like by creating this safe place in a church where you go into the box and you say, I fucked my sister-in-law and I blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
which everyone needs. I think that's only a result of the fact that everyone's full of shit and afraid to live out loud about that it's flawed and messy and fucked up. And I don't think sequestering it helps for eradicating it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's almost like we have a secret place to go admit our sins. But I think that's only because there's no safe place to do it in real life.
Well, there is also something, I think that being from a small town in the Midwest, and there is part of me like, and I don't know as a Midwesterner or a Georgian, that you were like, they're not just flyover areas. They're perfectly normal people that are not idiots. And so, like, all I wanted to do when I was a kid was leave Indiana. That's all I wanted to do. And I got to New York and I realized immediately how Midwestern I was.
For sure,
You know what I mean? I walked on stage and people were like, Midwestern. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And so there is part of me that also, I do think, because we're talking a little bit about shaming and stuff like that, I do think there is this arrogance and condescension to the middle class, and I would almost say the working class, and being a successful guy who has children, I'm like sitting there going, if I smell any condescension to someone who didn't go to college or maybe has a belief system that you think is silly, don't ever go there, because I am those people.
Mm-hmm.
And I bring that up in this kind of age when you're describing kind of the shame thing, that I think that we live in this age where indirectly there is a shaming going on of working class people. There's a shaming of people that if you don't have the exact same belief systems, which because of fortune and the miracle of our lives we've been exposed to, that I think that there is this shaming of like, oh, Nebraska? Oh my God, Nebraska?
Uh-huh.
That is like, if they were talking about an ethnic group, it would not be accepted.
Sure.
But there is, like when I first moved to New York, they're like, oh, all the people from the South are racist.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, really? Have you gone 10 minutes outside of New York City? Because it's not that different.
Right.
And by the way, in the South, I don't run into constant racism.
By the way, in the South, they're
Yeah.
going, "Oh, in New York, everyone's rude." So I don't think anyone's got a monopoly on generalizing, stereotyping, xenophobia. One is coming from a more arrogant place for sure, like a nose up.
Yeah.
They're uneducated. If they just knew this, they'd think like I do.
Yeah.
I totally agree that exists and happens broadly.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
Well, because you just said
Yeah.
you have a friend that's works for Fox News, and
Yeah.
you were like, "Oh, I get shit for that." I was on a sitcom the last year and a half.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Called The Ranch,
Yeah.
which is a right-wing sitcom. It's right.
Oh, it is?
It's a right-leaning sitcom. Yeah.
Oh, really?
And what's so
How
funny
dare you.
is that's where I'm going with this. I have had numerous actor friends of mine say, "Wow, I don't know if I could do that," and I've said, "Yeah, but remember when I told you I got offered to play Jeffrey Dahmer? You were pumped for me? Like, oh yeah, that'd be fucking awesome, play a serial killer." And I'm like, think how you've elevated, how important you've made politics is, that it'd be more soothing for me to play a serial killer than someone who's right of center. That's a little crazy.
Oh, so the premise
I could
of that
play a
show
molester.
is that you gave up the city and you moved to Nebraska.
No.
right?
Bless This Mess is not right
Okay.
wing.
Okay.
I'm also on a show on Netflix called The Ranch with Sam Elliott and
Okay.
Ashton Kutcher, and that is definitely right leaning.
It is.
Yes.
So
there's
politically
Hillary
it's-
jokes. There's, it's very pro-gun. It's very don't tread on me.
That's interesting.
I don't know that anyone's politics are that. I think they all decided people on the right deserve a sitcom too, and I happen to agree with that.
Of course.
Yes. So I'm happy to entertain anyone who finds my brand of entertainment pleasing.
By the way, here, let me also bring something up, and let me plug my Amazon special.
Yes.
But, I can nerd out about this for hours, but there is something that occurred. Stand-up comedy used to be, the great big stars of stand-up comedy were not for everyone, but for most of us. It was Chris Rock.
Mm-hmm.
No one had anything in common. They weren't a black kid from Brooklyn that went to a white high school, but they were like, he's great. Jerry Seinfeld, Jewish kid from Long Island. No one had that experience. But now it's getting to people are like, I just want the comedian that's exactly like me.
Right.
And I think it's insane. And the thing that I think is really scary is that as I've seen stand-up comedy become kind of much more of a college-educated kind of thing, there, when I started, there was...
Well, there's a big social movement aspect to it now.
Yeah, and there was something about... I was the only college kid. I remember people going, oh, college, you and your college humor.
Right,
Even though I'm from, a town of 300, But... So the point is that, if you look at comedians, there was the blue-collar guys, but, who's the comedian that represents what the blue-collar guys did?
Yes.
They can't have access.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not some grand plan. It's just
Well, no.
Like Roseanne probably wouldn't be made today because Roseanne, forget about her racist.
The most recent iteration, yeah.
But like the whole notion of her being this working class hero, I think that people would be like, oh, wait a minute, that's, what if they're communicating Christian values? And, we don't want them to push that thing that's masking the patriarchy. Do you know what I mean? It's just, I think there's an interesting time that maybe in a couple of years we're going to look back and go, there's nothing wrong with a different point of view.
I see both sides of the argument very clearly, and I agree. I think both sides have really good points. One is you have this huge platform as an entertainer, and you should be trying to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
So that I totally agree with. I myself have been guilty of it many times. I have used my voice. And then at the other time, there is also this deep arrogance that I'm a comedian, but I should also be a political pundit. It's like, it's okay if you're just a comedian. There's some real talented people handling the political punditing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Go ahead and let Bill Maher do what Bill Maher does.
Yeah. Or Seth Meyers. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a cadre of really smart political science type people commenting right now. So it's not as if I don't use my voice, it's not out there. In fact, it's probably being more well articulated than I'm going to be able to do. Yeah. But there is some arrogance that I have to be involved in every single thing. Well, why don't you just make people laugh, and then with your friends you can tell them everything you think. So I'm on both sides of it. I say this a lot on here. Had Twitter been a thing before Philadelphia came out with Tom Hanks, and Tom Hanks, let's say, had been crazy vocal about some left-leaning stuff, and he would have lost half of the audience, and then so half of the audience wouldn't have seen Philadelphia and changed their entire opinion about HIV and AIDS. So it's like, I see the value of him having been inclusive to everyone so that everyone would go see a movie that would be normally just labeled a lefty movie.
Yeah. I mean, that also feels like prehistoric times. But yeah, I do think, I guess the point I'm getting to is that I'm a 90s comedian. You should have people in your audience that have different viewpoints. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like, I used to love the fact that there was the lesbian couple sitting next to the Mormon family. And now I feel like there's kind of like, oh my God, there's right-winger guys that like your stand-up. I'm like, does that mean I'm doing something wrong?
Right, yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's just, I think there is...
It just got elevated beyond all other...
It's because everything's so extreme right now that people think the right-wing people are trying to take away other people's rights. It's not just like different viewpoints. Where it used to be just like, oh, this person believes something different than me. Now it's like, this person wants my gay friend to not get married. Or this person, it's become so personal and a manipulation of people's identities and rights.
It's so fascinating. It's a fascinating time. By the way, so we're dealing with this Teflon president, who's the most Teflon president we've ever had. Because we know during Obama's presidency, he started off where he opposed gay marriage.
Yes.
And I just think it's interesting how some people don't get, and believe me, I love Obama. So my point is not that he was against it, but I'm saying he's allowed. Whereas some people are like, Joe Biden in 1963 said this. And you're like, I just feel like it's fascinating. I'm not commenting. I'm not choosing a side. I'm just fascinated that some people get away with stuff. So here's an example. I love Colbert. Colbert had Spicer do a bit when he hosted the Grammys or the Emmys.
Oh, yes. I know about
it. It
this.
was one of those things where I was like, oh, wow, that's going to backfire. Nothing happened. I don't know if it was because he had built up so much goodwill, but it's like he got away with it. Jimmy Fallon tousles Trump's hair, and people still want him killed. I'm like, I just think that... And I did a whole episode of my TV show about how the zeitgeist or there is this group mentality that just decides we're going after Anne Hathaway for no reason at all. Yeah. Because she won an Academy Award. Now, I don't know Anne Hathaway. Maybe and maybe I'm not up on whatever she did.
Her
wrong.
transgressions.
Maybe she got her hair cut and people got upset about that.
Yeah.
But it is just fascinating how some people can get away with stuff and some people
can't do anything right.
Yeah.
I feel like that's Gwyneth Paltrow. Like, no matter what she does, half the country is going to be like, that entitled, stuck-up, elitist bitch. It's like, hold on. She said she wants to eat organic greens.
Right.
Hold on.
It's
There's got to be a worse thing someone could do than want to eat organic greens.
It's fascinating because there is also what makes that? What makes someone... By the way, your wife is really famous.
Uh-huh.
Really famous, who's been on, like, numerous television shows that are the top of discussion. She's escaped any blowback, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, bottom line, I think your physicality is almost everything. It's like somehow Kristen's beautiful and pretty and yet not triggering.
And not threatening.
Yes, it's like Gwyneth, like maybe if Kristen was 5'10".
She's a pretty white girl, too.
Yes, she's a pretty honky.
Yeah.
But if she was 5'10", I don't know. Maybe it goes another way.
But it's similar to the Colbert thing, though, with Kristen, because she is constantly putting out goodness. Like, she's a charitable person.
She's built the goodwill.
She has. I think that's a big element of it. Like, with Colbert, no one thinks, like, wait, has he turned? Like, everyone knows his stance.
Yeah, but, like, there's both right and left. There are these purity tests.
Oh, yeah,
that constantly happen.
But do you find, so here's what I find. I read stuff on Twitter. I read the stuff from the right on Twitter, and I read the stuff on the left on Twitter. And then I convince myself that that's the position of the left and right. And then I get around my liberal friends, and we talk about these issues, and no one thinks on the left the way we are being portrayed. So I have to extend the same benevolence to the right and assume that the right's getting together, and they're going, I don't think that our message reflects who we are.
Right.
I really do think both sides have been hijacked by the fringe 5%, and it appears that that's everyone's message. But I'm regularly reading something I find completely incomprehensible, and then I'm never talking to somebody where I can't understand where they're coming from.
Well, I feel as though that applies to the entire state of Florida. Like, I think that obviously, Florida is a wonderful place.
Sure.
It's a wonderful place with different, vibrant cities. But when they interview anyone, it's almost kind of like they do it on purpose. They're like, all right, we got to find someone in Florida to deal with Trayvon Martin's death.
Yeah, find someone who's been recently bit by an alligator.
They don't find, they don't go into like this intelligent, diverse fabric, which is Florida.
Never seen the club owner of Miami guy interviewed or a professor from the University of Miami.
Some guy walking down a street that has no teeth.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to quickly blow through a little bit of your career, which is impressive. And I wanted to ask you if you get triggered by one thing, because I just thought about it. So, as we said, you went from, being an accountant of some type to being a copywriter, advertiser, working on your comedy career, getting eventually on Letterman. That really kind of starts opening the door. I assume you start touring and more people are showing up. And then you eventually get a special, Beyond the Pale's #1, the most watched comedy special of the year, right?
Maybe. Or it definitely had a big impact.
Okay, and now you start touring to, what are the size audiences after that? Are you like in the 3,000 to 5,000 range?
Not right away.
Okay.
But it gets up there.
Because here's what I would have thought. I took myself back to when we met on that airplane, and I bet that was probably 2012-ish or something, somewhere in there. And I think if I were you, again, I'm probably more insecure than you. I'd be like, these actors, I sit next to these actors, and maybe they have a billboard somewhere in Sunset, but I'm fucking playing 200 dates a year, and I'm crushing. I'm making so much more money than these guys. Does that ever cross your mind?
Well, I wouldn't say that specifically, but what does cross my mind and what is, like every now and then the industry magazines will do a thing on comedy And first of all, everyone who's written an article on comedy, there have been good articles, but I think it was Entertainment Weekly did a thing, or the Hollywood Reporter did a thing like comedy power brokers.
Sure.
And obviously, it's all subjective. We work in a very perception-driven business. But what was so amazing, they left out Dave Chappelle, who literally could sell out. Like if he goes, I'm going to do the Staples Center at 2 a.m, people would be like, we'll see you there, Dave.
100%.
They didn't have him. They didn't have Jerry Seinfeld, whose Comedians in Cars is the most important show for comedy in the past 8 years. They didn't have Chris Rock, who's kind of like been an enormous star over decades, who can, do stand-up, direct a movie. He's redoing the Saw movies. He's going to be the lead in Fargo. No mention of Chris Rock. And then no mention of Joe Rogan, who obviously is the biggest thing in podcast world.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's plenty of people that should be on it.
Yes, but it sounds like what you're saying, it was very politically weighted.
It was just also kind of, it just felt very lazy. It's like, how can you not have these people on it?
Yeah.
It would be kind of like saying great television stars of the 70s and not saying Carol Burnett.
Right.
It's just absurd.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, I did sketch comedy and improv my whole time in LA. So I was pretty ignorant onto the stand-up world. It was not until I did a movie with Dane Cook.
Yeah.
And then I thought, leading up to it, I should watch his Tourgasm show on HBO. And then I was like, why is this guy on a private plane? Like, none of my actor friends are flying to work on a private plane. And then I happened to read an article that he had made like $29 million touring that year or something. And that's late in the game. Like, I realized that in 2006. So I was like, oh, okay, this is a different industry than I knew it was. But I guess I just mean I can imagine some supporting actor, nominated Academy Award actor on a plane next to Larry the Cable Guy, thinking, who's this loser? And the guy's making $50 million. There's something about that I think is just kind of funny in our business.
Yeah, no, it is. Because here's what I was also going to say is that I don't begrudge that actor. It's like one of the things that, like, I've gotten some films over the past couple of years, but it's taken a long time because it used to be, like I used to describe it on an airplane. Everyone in coach knew who I was, but no one in first class. So it's like all the producers sat in first class and had no idea who I was. But then their kids got old enough to tell them who I am.
Okay, so let me just go through a couple things. So 2012, you do Mr. Universe.
Yeah.
And you get nominated for a Grammy.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, it makes sense in that people put out comedy albums. It's just, I can't imagine. Could you have ever imagined, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get a Grammy. It's not what you associate with comedy. You go there and it's Usher and
no, it was,
and all these, like.
No, I went there not last year, but the year before. They had all the comedians come.
Okay.
And we all knew Chappelle was going to win.
Yeah.
But it was.
By the way, he should.
Yeah, of course.
And
so it's like, it is rather absurd because it is Usher and, the Despacito guy and, everyone. And
Pharrell.
I'm kind of like, I talk about being lazy.
So
it is kind of an odd mix, but it is the recording industry.
Then you did Obsessed, right?
Yes.
And that 2 was the most watched that year. And then you did a tour, and that tour, and did it end at Madison Square Garden?
It might have.
It might have,
yeah.
So that is a big tour, right?
It's huge.
How many dates did you do?
I mean, it varies. I never stop. I'll tape a special and then I'll sign, the special will come out later. And during that time, I'll be coming up with new material. So I'm always, when I'm doing a show, the audience is always seeing an hour of new material.
Okay, great, because we just had this debate. We were wondering, like, now that, so Aziz just had his special come out, which we watched and loved.
Yeah.
And then we were like, well, now he's got this huge special, and he's in the zeitgeist right now, and I bet he could sell out every place right now. Conventionally, would he just go and do that routine that was on Netflix?
It depends. So some comedians, I would say most normal comedians, tape a special. They might do a couple more weeks. And then once the special airs, because there's an unspoken agreement with the audience that you're going to show up with new material.
Yeah, and if it's on Netflix, everyone has seen it.
Yes. But, there's different...
But let's just say, I saw Raw. Yeah. I loved it. I saw all of Chris Rock's. If he wanted to tour and do one of those, I'd be there. I want to see him do the same thing again.
Yeah, man.
But why? You just watch it on TV at your house again.
But I also watch it like 10 times in a row. I used to watch those specials over and over again.
You can kill with old material, but will they come back again?
A second time.
So some of the element of stand-up, I think, is the surprise of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not to say that there aren't old bits that people want to hear that I might do in an encore. But there is an unspoken agreement. It's new stuff.
Is your Hot Pockets routine your most famous routine?
Probably.
And what's the premise that you thought it was? It felt like an SNL commercial.
I thought it was an SNL sketch. I sincerely was like, oh, this is like the commercial was so bad. I was like, this has got to be
right.
This seems like a sketch.
Uh-huh.
When Hot Pockets first came out, it was that bad. You know how like sometimes hearing aid commercials, you're like, really, you're using that take?
Oh yeah.
So it's
the one that they made fun of eventually on John Oliver a lot was the cathing commercial. Have you seen the
No, what's that?
Cowboy cath? I'm going to jump to the best part of it. There's a guy talking about he doesn't want to be in pain when he caths. And he's using cath. Yes, decatheter, but he's using it as a verb, like when I cath, which I don't even know if that's grammatically allowed.
Yeah.
But here's the best part. The guy is clearly in his late 70s, maybe even 80, right?
Yeah.
And the commercial starts with him going, I've been cowboying for 20 years, and I don't like to be in pain when I cath. That's how it starts. Oh, wow. And you just blow by that, right? And about the 80th time we saw it, I said, wait, this guy started cowboying in his 60s? What do you mean he's been cowboying for 20 years? He's 80.
That's so funny.
Like, did no one look at the actor and the copy and go, oh, wait, we got to say he's been cowboying for 50 years?
Well, you know what is so interesting? Because I think of a different catheter commercial.
Oh, you've got your own favorite.
My catheter commercial is like the guy talking about, he goes, I had no idea there were so many catheters. And then he gets on a plane.
Oh.
Do you guys know that?
No.
Yeah, that's the catheter commercial I know. I don't know the cowboy cat.
And he's overwhelmed with the amount of choice in the cath market.
I had no idea. And they sent him all these different types of catheters.
Oh.
Meanwhile, I didn't know what a catheter was until I had my appendix out. And afterwards, they're like, let us know if it hurts when you pee. And I'm like, why would it hurt? And they're like, because we inserted a catheter. And I was like, oh, that's what it is.
Uh-huh. And it's just a long tube up your penis, right?
Yeah.
And it goes into your bladder even, yeah?
I mean, what the?
Yeah. And apparently people are doing this on their own. I'm not even sure what
people are doing it in airplanes.
Enough people are doing it that there's many brands on the air with commercials.
Many brands,
yes.
And there's different cath commercials, one of which you don't know about and one of which I don't know about.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Wait, Hot Pocket is where we...
Yeah. Sorry. Hot Pockets. So, yes, I do recall the commercial, and the jingle, right, was Hot Pockets.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. The story is like I did it as a couple jokes at Caroline's, and I was like, no one's going to know what this is. This is before Hot Pockets, the brand, took off.
Right.
And I was like, no one in New York City, like...
Yeah, you're eating at nice restaurants
or you can get a piece of pizza. You don't need to microwave a hot
And no one's even in their fucking apartment in New York.
No.
Right? Everyone's living in a rat hole. They got to get out of it.
I was like, no one... And then a friend of mine who is from Alabama, he's like, no, that's really funny. And so then I started doing it on the road, and then, I don't know, and then it just kept growing. And then they keep introducing new ones.
Right. Well, they won't stop. By the way, I had a spell where I did consume a lot of those.
You did?
Yeah.
When you were single, right?
Well, no, I had a girlfriend, but we were both broke, and we'd eat anything. We drank a lot. We didn't give a shit. I regularly think I used to eat like 12 of those 7-Eleven hot dogs a week, I felt like $1 million. Now I eat almost perfect. And
now you walk by a 7-Eleven, you feel bad.
Absolutely. Now, I love the title. Dad is Fat. Is that the name?
Yeah.
So Jim wrote a book called Dad is Fat.
Yes.
You've written a few books?
Yeah, 2 books.
2 books. What's the other one?
Food, a Love Story.
Food, a Love Story. So in food is a very common topic. Well, clearly we just said hot pockets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're really just kind of owning an addiction, right? I mean, you're owning a lot of my jokes are about when I was fucked up, the stupid things I did. I don't know what the numbers are, but I got to imagine a lot of people wrestle with food issues in general, right?
Yeah.
So just tell me about your approach to going, you know what, I'm going to talk about this thing that I do think about a lot.
I mean, just to present a caveat, whatever that means, is that I would say probably 25% of the 7 specials I've done is food material.
Oh, okay.
But it is a consistent theme.
Mm-hmm.
But like in the last 3 specials, not so much. But it's a very interesting point that you bring up. Obviously, it's a, you can call obesity an epidemic in America. It is something that most of us are consumed with.
Yeah.
And it is universal. So you don't have to take a lot of time explaining. I can talk about it. I can have a lot of different points of view on it. I don't have to explain it. I think that was what was really appealing about it.
Well, what's interesting is besides like vegetarians, vegans, generally people aren't attaching their identity to what they eat.
No.
Whereas they are attaching their identity to their political position, their socioeconomic position. So they're easily triggered. Like you making fun of something could be inadvertently making fun of their identity. But in this case, until recently, people didn't really go, I'm a pizza eater.
Yeah.
I'm a fried chicken eater.
Well, by the way, let me also say that I do believe, like, it wouldn't surprise me if you told me that you're vegan or that
I was for 1 year of my life.
because I do think that is the future. I do think it's undeniable. Like, just as like,
Yeah, the morals are clear.
it's just very obvious that, like, I don't drink soda. Like when I was a kid, I mean, by the way, all my kids, all they want to do is drink soda.
Sure.
But when you become a conscious adult, you're like, this is stupid. This is just all calories and sugar and it's making me fat. So I'm not going to drink it. So I do think that, like, just as cigarettes, then soda, I think it's inevitably moving towards meat and even fried food. Like, I think fried food is
Next
pretty
up.
insane. It's pretty insane that we're literally eating things that are just deep fried. And, it might even get to the point where it's like corn. Like, corn is not great for you. And
No.
I'm from the Midwest, and I don't want the corn manufacturers to be mad.
The corn lobby.
But the thing that I identify with food is that it's universal. And I think everyone struggles with it.
Oh, I do too.
Whether you're trying to, like, not deal with arthritis because you're like a guy with the ailments of a grandmother. It's not like it's everyone. By the way, when I did Dad is Fat, I wasn't fat. It was my son thought I was fat. My son, who was 6 at the time, thought I was fat. Now I'm fat. When I did Food, a Love Story, which is all about food, my obsession with food, I would write about different foods that I would try when on the road. And then I started doing research, and then I created this behavior of eating. So it's almost kind of self-fulfilling.
Right. Well, now listen, this is one of the risks I always am aware of when I talk to people. And by the way, I said this right to his face, so I'm not being mean.
Yeah.
But Jay Leno, he has kind of a narrative, as we all have, but his narrative is like, I've never swam in my pool. I'll never take a vacation. Who am I to think I should just be not working, right? Which I get it. It's a relatable narrative. And then I even said, like, at what point do you become a victim of your own narrative? Like, you should swim in your pool and you should go on vacation. Like, I get the whole thing, but at the same time, no, go on vacation and swim in your pool. So,
Well, it is interesting because there are people that are like, Jim, if you lost 30 pounds, you lose your act. Well, it's like it's a new act every year and a half.
Wow.
So it's like, but I think there is this.
you craft a persona,
You
basically.
craft a persona, and it's point of view.
Uh-huh.
And the reality is people change their point of view. I'm not saying that you're going to go back to drinking. I'm saying that you're going to evolve.
Yeah.
Like, you in 10 years might have different opinions, and which goes back to my point that this arrogance that humans think that we have it all figured out when our views evolve.
Hopefully, yeah.
And change.
Yeah, as
And
new
it's
info.
it's not necessarily for better or worse. It's just different.
But do you feel like, whereas a normal person never has to contemplate whether or not their audience is going to join them on this evolution, you would be irresponsible not to wonder, is this new direction I'm going in going to alienate?
Here's the thing. What makes your friendship or your relationship with your wife so dynamic, it's that you're challenging each other. There's still some mystery. There's some surprise. And the thing,
Her approval of me is not a foregone conclusion, and I value that.
and by the way, it's probably harder to acquire.
Yeah.
And so the thing about stand-up, the comedian with the audience, is you have to challenge them. Like I have a friend, Todd Glass, who occasionally will open for me, and he's like, "You're always purifying your audience. Like you'll have a joke in there that will say, 'Hey, this is who I am.'" I think that we live in this age of this exhibitionist, voyeuristic era where you have to reveal something, which, by the way, is why podcasts are so popular, is because people are revealing things and people are funny. Authenticity is so cherished. So, but my point with the stand-up is that you have to challenge. Like the great friends you have, they will challenge you and they'll say, "Do you really believe that?" Or, "That's bullshit, Dax. You don't really believe that." And you might go, "Fuck you." But then you're like, "You know what? Yeah, maybe you're right." And so like having, on my 7th special or touring into a city like Atlantic City for the 13th year in a row with new material is that audience knows that I'm going to be funny. There's also an expectation that I'm going to surprise them a little bit. Maybe I'm not going to, I'm not going to do magic tricks, but I'm going to talk about something.
Well, if you want Monica as a fan,
please.
I'm going to talk about something that maybe makes them uncomfortable, but maybe opens up a little bit.
Yeah.
Now it sounds like I'm over-promising. No. I'm just saying, like, you have to evolve.
But I think the best example of it is Stern. It's like if you compare the show today to 25 years ago, it's
always
like
evolving.
You can't even compare the two. And I think so many of the people argue with about Stern, they're arguing from when he was on terrestrial radio the last time they heard him 20 years ago. We don't like that guy, right? He threw baloney at girls' asses. And I'm like, I can't defend that. But it's been a long time since he threw baloney at someone's ass.
By the way, he's also somebody that has a Teflon ability. Like if you lined up his crimes.
Oh, sure. But I'll tell you what the whole thing is we're just really, I think, drawn to hypocrisy. So he's never purported to be some pillar of morality. We're not tearing the robe off of him. You know what I'm saying? It's like he's owned his shittiness in a way that there's no story there.
Well, I think that might be true, but I think that there's an additional Teflon ability that if things don't stick to him. Things don't stick to him, and it's a very unique person. I'm not complimenting it or criticizing it. I'm just saying some people get away with murder.
Oh, sure.
And other people, they're like, look at that shirt they wore.
Yeah.
We're never going to forgive them.
Absolutely. Okay, so you have a bunch of stuff coming out. You've been a very busy beaver.
Yes.
You have a movie on August 2nd called Them That Follow.
Yes.
I was right to guess that it's a little bit dark.
It's dark.
It's dark. It's about a religious cult.
It's a Pentecostal snake healing church set in Appalachia. I'm going to mispronounce it. And I play the husband of Olivia Colman. Her career seems to be going all right. And Walton Goggins is in it playing the minister. And so it's an amazing cast. Like, there's so many amazing people in it.
And that comes out in LA on August 2nd.
National, August 9th.
And then August 16th is Amazon. You have a comedy special. And it's their first comedy special.
Their first comedy special.
And it's called Quality Time.
Quality Time.
Okay, now the big thing is American Dreamer on September 20th.
Yes. It's the movie that I want directors and producers to see so that they can go, oh, wow, he can act.
Yes.
That is what I want to happen.
Who do you play in that?
I play a rideshare driver in Norfolk, Virginia, who is kind of down on his luck and who ends up driving around a drug dealer. You know, some people are rideshare drivers. It's kind of like a side hustle or whatever. And then there's some rideshare drivers that are crazy.
Sure.
And so I'm more of the latter.
Okay.
I'm this guy Cam, and so it's a larger look at entitlement, like white entitlement and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of heavy stuff that happens in it.
That's one of the topics I'm most fascinated by.
Yeah, it's
the white male entitlement.
It's really interesting because playing this guy, I mean, acting, particularly where you're playing this character that is so complex, and you sit there and you go, I want people on board for the first 20 minutes, and then I want to plant the seed. It's in the script, but you want to plant the seed. Oh, wait a minute. Should I be rooting for this guy? And then by the last act, you're like, I can't believe I ever liked this guy. The driving force of this character is he can't believe he has to deal with this stuff.
Right.
Which is just, that encompasses entitlement.
Yeah, well, if you grow up hearing your whole life you could be president, and there's some kind of expectation that when not met, it's guys can't even understand it. It's incomprehensible.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be.
And by the way, it's weird also portraying someone like this. You have to not have any doubts about his decision-making process. So it's so fun to shoot it, and then you get done and someone's like, I can't believe your character did that. In your mind, you're going, that's all he could do.
Like, you start defending.
Like, I'm so crazy. I'm like, what's wrong with that?
Yes.
Like, you end up defending this insane behavior.
Well, in order to play, this is well-worn, everyone knows, but to play a serial killer successfully, you can't be in judgment of the serial killer.
You have to
it'll
be on their
two-dimensional.
side.
Yeah. No serial killer thinks they're a bad guy.
No.
They think they're a great guy.
Like, when I read it, I was like, this is an amazing opportunity because no one's going to think that I'm going to go there.
Right.
When it screened at the LA Film Festival, to see people kind of physically turning, like, I can't, why would you do that?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And then also horrendous things happening. And then he just kind of goes on. Because, by the way, that's what happens in life. What happens in life is horrible things happen, and the world continues to spin.
Well, Jim, we're going to see all the things. We're going to see Them That Follow. We're going to watch Quality Time on Amazon, and then we're going to go to a movie theater and eat some popcorn on September 20th and watch American Dreamer. We're going to support you. You're a lovable, kind person.
Thank you.
I recommend anyone who's planning a trans-American flight from LA to New York, you can't find a better seat partner than Jim Gaffigan.
Oh, thanks. And then we held hands during most of the flight.
During the turbulence.
Because it was scary.
Yes.
It's very scary.
That's nice.
And then
I
told Jim that I would be capable of landing the plane. And
I'm sure you did.
He did not feel any safer than you do when I offer.
There you go.
Well, Jim, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. And here's where the podcast music comes in.
About now,
That's our song, yeah. This is our song. Is we play the bird dance. We found out the bird song was in public domain, so we just grabbed it. All right, I love you, Jim.
Thank you.
All right.
And now my favorite part of the show, the fact check with my soulmate, Monica Padman.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, it seemed like you were going to do a song.
Yeah.
What happened just now?
Well, I don't know. Is there a song you want to hear?
No, it just, you looked at your phone and looked like you were looking for a song, and then you started, and then there was no song.
And then I looked at you with really surprised eyes.
Right.
I was just looking at my phone to make sure there was no family emergency before we launched in.
Got it.
And then I was thinking, I like so many songs. What song would I even sing?
Too many songs.
Too many songs to pick.
I guess I should start by updating people with my H&R Block situation.
Oh, yes. Let's do that.
Because more has happened.
Oh, boy. We are going to get sued. I can feel it. Let's do it.
How? We can't get sued.
We can't? Well, look at Oprah got sued for that beef thing, remember?
Okay, but Oprah didn't have an experience with the beef and then talk about it. She just said like, oh.
Ugh, beef.
Yeah, beef.
Well, I think it had something to do with Mad Cow, right? Dr. Phil was involved in that case?
Yes. Well, that's how they met.
That's how they met.
Yeah. No, but I'm just talking about a personal experience that was horrible. And I got to tell people because What? What are you laughing at?
Because I love you. That's why I laugh with you.
No. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? Because you think it's silly for me to talk about this
No, I think
and air my grievance.
No, I think you're a determined little fucker, and I find it amusing when you are determined.
Okay, so here's what happened.
Tell us.
So after last time, couldn't get them online. They said, you need to go to a location, have them printed out, which I'm like, great. So I look on the website. I see a location close by. I drive there. It's closed, like shut down.
Oh, out of biz.
Yeah, well, what I assume happens is that pops back up during tax season.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah, because I doubt they get a ton of business in May.
In September, which it is now.
Okay.
Anyway, I went there. I was like, okay, that's fine. And then I look up another location, also pretty close by. Drive there, also shut down. At this point, I'm frustrated.
Of course you are. Really quick, why didn't you call? After the first, like, fool me once, shame on you, H&R Block. Fool me twice, shame on...
It's still shame on H&R Block because it's on their website.
Okay.
Okay. So after those two, I call.
Okay. The third one.
And I kind of tell her the whole story, but I'm like vulnerable. I was like, I need help.
Well, that's a great way to do it.
I really need help. This is extremely time sensitive and
I'm scared.
Help me. And so she said, okay, so there's one open on Wilshire, not close.
Okay.
So I said, okay, I drive there, go up, closed.
Uh-oh.
Not shut down, but closed.
Like, okay. What time of day was this?
This was 10:30 or 11
a.m. I mean, that is prime time. Something should be open.
Correct. Then I started crying.
Okay. Oh,
And
buddy.
And then I called again.
Uh-huh.
And I'm also like in weird I feel so weird. I'm like driving all over the city and lost.
You're kind of like Veronica Mars right now.
No,
You're
Veronica
like trying to
has
track
control.
down. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
I was out of control.
But you're like going to all these places trying to get these documents. That part of it's a little gumshoey.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And I needed something. I couldn't get it. And it was my stuff.
Yeah,
So
you're
that
entitled
felt
to it.
like they have my stuff and I can't get it.
Yep.
So anyway, so then I was crying. Then I called again. And then I said, okay, this all happened. Then I just called. She just sent me here.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, that's not open till 5. And I was like,
Excuse me.
oh my God.
They're open at 5 p.m.?
Yes. Also, what?
What a weird shift. Oh my gosh.
I need this now. And she's like, okay, there's this one. And she gave some address. And I was like, okay, are they open now? And she was like, well, I don't know what time it is there, but they open at 12.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, it's 10:30. So they don't. So she's like, okay, there's one here in Glendale, which by the way, Glendale
is the one you went to first?
No, it should have been the one I went to first.
Yeah.
It's close to where we are.
That's right.
But then it's 30 minutes from where I am currently.
Yeah.
When I make this phone call. So then
Yeah.
I have to drive 30 minutes to Glendale.
Oof.
I get there. I'm walking up and I'm just like, what's happening? What's it going to be? So then I open up the door. There's 2 ladies in there. The whole thing is kind of shut down, but there's 2 ladies in there. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy to see a real person. I have had all this experience. She's like, oh, well, did you try to log on to your account? And I was like, yes, that's the first thing I tried to do. And she was like, oh, well, I'm supposed to charge you $25
Oh boy.
for printing this because they want people to use the website. And I was like, So anyway, she prints the stuff out for me. Thank goodness. I like her, although I was like, I'm here. I'm going to read to you everything I need.
Yeah.
And I did, and I was like, what about this part? Do you have this? And she's like, no, that's something for you to do on your own. That is in the packet. But point is, I'm just saying, I mean, I don't know. Really what's going on is I started to think about businesses, and I was like, this is fascinating. Like, once you get so huge.
This is what I was kind of saying the other day. Do you remember I was saying that? I feel bad for people who...
But I don't feel bad because I know you feel bad for the creators of H&R Block because now their company.
They were probably, they had to have been very meticulous hard workers to have built a business that was successful. I mean, they almost had to have been.
Of course. I know. I feel like once you get too big, this is like the same with like cable providers. I won't say which one specifically I'm thinking of so we don't get sued. But once you're talking to someone in Minnesota on the phone and then you hang up and you can never, ever, ever talk to that person again.
Right. I hate that you can't reach the person.
Yes.
No one's accountable.
And they have like one piece of information. You have to retell the whole thing over. It's like this starts to get so maddening.
And they're not incentivized to help you.
They're not.
That's tricky, yeah.
Yeah, one person in Minnesota, you
Look,
hang
I
up,
had the
call back.
exact same
in North
experience
Dakota, their answer.
with my prescription provider.
I know.
It's like I would talk to 12 different people. They'd all tell me they were going to do something, and then literally no one would do it. And it's like,
It's
God,
so frustrating.
can I drive there and manually do it myself?
I know.
But
then
part of
you
me
complained and you got it fixed.
Yeah,
So
that's right. You're right. Are our general expectations just too high? Would life be more peaceful if we were like, oh, we should expect shittiness?
no.
Okay.
No, I'll
Oh,
never.
sorry. I'm sorry to suggest
never
that.
expect shittiness. I think that's.
But then you're just like, you're really delighted when someone does something above and beyond. I've said this on here before. I'm very aware of my extreme privilege that because I'm on TV, when I go to Starbucks, they actually are helpful.
yes.
And I realize how nice this world would be if everyone was treated like
Yeah.
they could potentially shit talk you and ruin your company. Well, that is why it's so exceptional when you deal regularly with a company that is exemplary, like
Yeah.
Costco. Whatever model they have, every company should be copying.
Yeah.
Every experience is positive.
Yeah.
They really do the thing they're going to say. It's remarkable.
It is.
But at the same time, you go to McDonald's and you know the people are making $7, and I can't expect them to give a fuck. I wouldn't give a fuck for $7.
Yeah. I mean, look, I get it. I know, and I don't know.
But you're a harder worker than me across the board, I think. If I have some ownership of something, I'm a very hard worker. Like if I'm directing or writing or anything that I feel invested in, then I think I have a crazy good work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm working for the man, I have a hard time giving a shit. So I guess all I'm saying is I can relate.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, we're going to move on from them. That's the end of that story because I'm never, ever, ever,
You're not gonna
ever
use
going
them
back
again.
there.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Okay.
not.
But you got all your stuff?
Yeah, I've been looking at a home,
Uh-huh.
and that's what all this is about.
It's so serendipitous because it's literally across the street from our new house, which is so
know.
exciting.
It's a very exciting prospect.
I'm so excited for you. I know it's stressful for you, but from
It's
the
exciting.
outside who's not dealing with it, I'm so excited for Wobby Wob who's in
Yeah.
this. It's so
Wobby Wob's
exciting
also in the
to see
same
people I
sitch.
love getting the things they set out to get. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Forget Jim. Forget him.
Sorry, Jim.
Sorry,
there really
Jim.
isn't that much about Jim, but
I hope Jim isn't sponsored by H&R Block. Can you imagine what a debacle that'd be for him? That-
Spokesperson.
he's what if he could be the voiceover? Jimmy Jammer.
He was fun.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart.
Yeah, and you met him on an airplane,
I met him on an airplane.
and you enjoyed him.
It was one of those things. It's always this weird reindeer dance when you're trying to figure out if you know one another. And maybe it's all in my head. We've gone through this.
Yeah.
But it's always in my head. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know them. I'll start. Hey.
That's nice.
Yeah. I'll generally, yeah.
Yeah. You're
Oh, I was on the
friendly.
flight home from New York on Monday night. So stressful. So I told you I left my phone.
Oh, you want to tell everyone what happened?
Yes. I would say one of the cornerstones of my self-esteem is that I don't ever lose stuff. You've heard me brag about it many times.
Take pride in that.
And I'm hard on people who regularly lose stuff.
Yes,
I'm
you
like,
are.
I'm always like, here's the thing. You pick 4 spots in the house you set your phone on. That's it. You're only allowed to put it down 4 places and then you'll never lose it. Blah, 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 blah. Well, I fucking left it in the car.
Yeah.
And I got through security. And I went to, I take my phone out of my pocket. I put it in my backpack to put it through the belt. Went to do that. Where the fuck's my phone? And I was TSA pre. So it took me 1 second to go through security. I leave and I'm literally, it's like my brain doesn't work. I'm like, what do? I don't know any phone numbers. What was the driver? Holy shit.
Yes.
How do I can't call anyone. I'm going to ask a stranger for their phone. What numbers will I even put into the phone? I don't know anyone's number. And all of a sudden I was like, my iPacks. I have my iPacks in my backpack.
Yes.
Take my iPacks out, start emailing frantically to Adam,
Your
my
publicist,
publicist,
yeah.
who knew the driver information.
Yeah.
He's not responding. I try to FaceTime him. He doesn't even know I have an iPacs with this weird phone number. So I'm thinking, oh my God, he's probably thinks some weirdo's got his number trying to FaceTime him. I do this over and over and over again. I burn up about 10 minutes and I'm panicking because I know the driver is moving away from me.
Oh, my
like one of
God.
these thought experiments. I've left a train station going eastbound. He's left westbound. And so I finally think, oh my God. And I think, okay, I'm going to email Dobbin, my agent's assistant.
Okay.
Dobbin doesn't know anything about this trip to New York.
Yeah.
Not involved at all in my publicity.
Yeah.
But just as a Hail Mary pass, email Dobbin, I'm so fucked. I just lost my phone, blah, 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 blah. I have no info to give Dobbin. Somehow Dobbin works a miracle, gets on the phone with the driver. The driver has now, it's been 18 minutes. Let me back up. I did Seth Meyers. And we were already racing for me to get to my flight. So I was already stressed getting to JFK. So now the driver's gone 18 minutes the wrong direction, gets the driver to turn around. Now, what a fucking inconvenience. He thought he was off work. He has a 5-year-old kid. He had turned around. Anyways, Dobbin says the driver will be there in 18 minutes. So now I'm just staring at my watch. Okay, so 18 minutes puts me at I'll have virtually 8 minutes before the plane door shuts.
Oh my God.
And then at a certain point, I'm like, I might just have to leave my phone in New York because I have to work in the morning on Bless This Mess.
Yeah.
So anyways, driver pulls up. And in my calculations, I'm like, all right, I'll get back through security in 5 minutes, TSA pre. I get my phone. I go back into the airport. They've shut down TSA pre in the 30 minutes that I've been out there on the curb.
awful.
I get in the normal line. There's 25 people. I'm just panicking. I hate this.
Buddy, it's awful. Yeah.
Anywho, I make it
Did
clearly.
you tell anyone
It crossed my mind.
should've.
I so wanted to do it. And then again, there's way more upsides of being on TV. But this was the one where I was like, they're all going to just think because I'm on TV, I'm allowed to cut the line.
But
I got
who
really.
cares at that point?
You're probably right, but I got self-conscious that people will think I'm entitled. So anyways, I make it through. I get on the plane. My heart rate was probably 175. I sit down. Long way to tell you that the guy from Dawson's Creek was on the airplane.
James Vanderbeek.
Not the beat.
Joshua Jackson.
Joshua Jackson was on. And we locked eyes once or twice. And I tried to send a very clear message like, hey, man, I know you're Joshua Jackson. And that was a long way to tell you I saw another celebrity on an airplane.
Oh, but you guys didn't really chat.
We didn't chat. I was not in a
Chatting mood.
What if people are like cool for the complain session? I thought I was getting that fact check.
The fact check is for us.
It's for
to
us.
Chat. I don't know how many people.
More and more,
listen
it's for
to
us
it.
to catch up
That's
because
right.
I don't see you now that I'm shooting so much.
I know. I miss you.
I miss you, and I really look forward to these fact checks so we can check in on what's going on.
Me too.
Maybe the fact check is more about checking in.
Oh,
Yeah, it's more of a check-in.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so Jim. So he said growing up, Michigan was the star of the Midwest. And he said Detroit was the 5th largest city in the country, now lost 70% of its population. So Detroit has been going through a considerable reduction in population. The city has lost over 60% of its population since 1950. Okay, so we talked about atheism versus being agnostic. Because I feel like you gave a definition of agnostic that was still kind of spiritual. Like you don't think you're agnostic because you think there's...
I don't. I think people that are agnostic think there is something they don't know what.
No.
Okay.
So I already knew this because of Eric Covington, my religion teacher, who I loved.
Who you're hot for.
Yeah. Agnostic, I'll just read the definition.
Please.
A person who believes that nothing is known or can be known of the existence or nature of God or of anything beyond material phenomena. A person who claims neither faith nor disbelief in God. So it's just saying, I do not know.
Right, but also they don't claim disbelief.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you...
I have disbelief. I do.
But disbelief meaning that they're saying, I don't believe in God and I don't not believe in God.
Correct. I say I do not believe in God. I definitively say that.
Okay, well,
and I also say I'd be thrilled to find out I'm wrong.
Right.
Yeah, I think that'd be the greatest. There'd be the best I told you so would be coming from God's mouth.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying you are definitive on that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a supreme intelligence to the universe.
Right.
Which does not exclude me from spirituality, or at least my definition of spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's some human thing
Yeah.
that is shareable. And
Yeah.
I think there's transcendent experiences, and I've had them.
I think I'm more just agnostic.
Yeah.
And really only because on principle, kind of, I feel like...
It's arrogant to... Yeah, it is.
Because to me, it's arrogant to say there is. And then it's to me equal. To me, it's the same. You're making a definitive declaration on whether or not something we just don't know.
Well,
about.
not to split hairs, but
Sure.
I also am not declaring there isn't one. I don't believe there's one, but I'm not declaring there isn't one. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going around going, there isn't a God. I don't tell anyone there isn't a God. I don't think there's a God. And this would be my analogy. Is there an invisible elephant in this room? I don't believe there is one.
Okay.
It's unknowable, really, if there's an invisible elephant in this room.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, it's in the high 90s that the evidence would suggest there's not an invisible elephant in this room.
I would say the same. I would say most likely not, but I don't know for sure.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
I'm more weighted into the fact that I don't think there is.
Right.
It might be a little mental trick I play, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I might not want to be driven nuts by the trying to figure it out. So I'm just like, fuck it, I'm planting a flag here.
Yeah.
That there isn't, and then I'm done thinking about it.
That's probably normal.
Because I think a lot of agnostic people are also searchers. Like they haven't found anything they believe in, but they're still searching. And I'm not searching.
I don't know if that's true.
What would we call those people? Like they think there's something, but they don't know what it is. Jewish?
I don't know. I also, there's like these definitions are so there's like 3 options, and that's not the case. Like,
Yeah, that's the other thing is like, we want there to be something definitive.
Yeah.
Some human being wrote that sentence.
Yeah, of course. Someone,
Yeah.
decided that these are the buckets.
Yeah.
But I think you can be like, I don't know. And that's fine. Like that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely lean more towards I don't think so. But I also feel very strongly that there's something going on.
Uh-huh.
I've
Sure.
had too many experiences in life where things have happened that I've
They're
thought
suspicious.
about. Yes, too many.
Yeah, I've had those too. But I just go like, I don't know why or what caused that. And I know it'll be a waste of time to try to figure it out.
Yeah, I feel that way too.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's fully not believing though.
And also, can I tell you another thing I don't believe in? Although I do believe it's the best current theory.
What?
Is the Big Bang. Like, I understand it. I understand the mechanics behind why that's a theory, and that it all holds, that the universe is expanding, so clearly it started from somewhere.
Right.
Yet I don't believe in the Big Bang because my mind can't compute what the void was before the Big Bang. I'm like, that's the same as God to me.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I also, again, I don't really care all that much.
I don't either. I don't really give a shit. There's no solution people can pitch to me that actually alleviates my discomfort in thinking about it.
Yeah.
Meaning, if you say there's a God, I'm just as curious as where God came from. I'm so limited with my thought process being a paradigm where everything is created and then dies.
Yeah.
That it's not even, it doesn't calm me to think there is a God forever, because where the fuck did that thing come from?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a cycle or a wormhole.
Speaking of cycles.
Black hole.
You're not on yours.
I'm not on my cycle.
I know.
You seem shocked by
I
that.
always think you and Mother have the same cycle, but you don't.
We don't. Anyway, so something I definitely should have said in the moment, and I didn't. And I didn't because I mostly agreed with his point, so I didn't really want to derail the conversation into this element of it.
Mm-hmm.
He said that there's shaming about like different parts of the country and that there's elitism on the coast. So he said there's a shaming of parts of the country. People say, oh, all the people from the South are racist. And then he's like, really? Have you gone 10 minutes outside of New York City? Because it's not that different. And by the way, in the South, I don't run into constant racism.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree ultimately,
Right.
but also, come on.
Yeah, how could he
Of course
experience
you don't
racism?
run
Yeah,
into
yeah.
constant racism.
Yeah.
Where would you run into it?
Well, I will say this, not to defend that, but I will say I have been in areas. I went and saw Nate on a movie on the bayou.
Mm-hmm.
And this dude who drove around, he had helped location scout, whatever. He was kind of like a local businessman and fixer kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I spent the afternoon with him. He showed me some alligators and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the comfort by which he started dropping the N-bomb told me it was a little bit of a clue that there's something systemic because he's not even nervous that I might have an issue with
Right.
that.
That's true.
It's kind of like the real bit of racism in the Rodney King beating wasn't the 4 officers striking him. It was the 12 officers that lied in their report. That just tells you that the whole system.
It's fucked. Yes.
So in that way, I
Agreed.
can understand how you can as a fellow white person.
Of course.
They'll kind of let you in on their racism.
You can observe it for sure.
Yes.
And
yes, he's
there's
not.
such a big difference. You're not going to be the person that when you walk into a restaurant, you can feel being treated a certain way
Right.
or looked at a certain way. So anyway, I just wanted to make that clear
Yeah.
in case anyone heard it and was like, why didn't you say anything? And that's why I didn't, because I liked the general gist of what he was saying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you talk about the cath, the cowboy catheter.
yeah.
Catheter cowboy.
I've been cowboying
For
20 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
We talk about that. And then he was like, no, I don't know that, but I know another catheter commercial. Remember?
Yes, I do.
Okay, found it.
Is it great?
Yeah. It's called the Liberator catheter commercial.
Which nothing could be less liberating than having a fucking calf. It's like called the Liberator handcuffs. Liberator brand handcuffs.
Oxymoron.
Do you use catheters?
Mm-hmm.
Are you using the catheter that's really best for you?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. For years, I'd been using one kind of catheter, and I never knew that there were other really great catheters available until Liberator sent me samples to try. If I had not tried the samples from Liberator, I might never have found the perfect catheter for me. Liberator Medical sent me a catheter that was easier for me to use right out of the package. I even used them in my airplane and carried
I'm so
4 or
sorry.
5
Back up,
and be
sir.
gone for a whole day. And now that I've found
He's
the best
doing
catheter
aerobac-
for me,
Acrobatic.
Oh.
I like it
His
much.
plane's
It's
turning
just-
sideways.
There are
Sprayed
so
all
many
over the-
innovative catheters to upgrade to. Call Liberator Medical for your free personalized sample pack. Get the best catheter for you.
And I just want to apologize to anyone who has to use a catheter. I bet it's a real pain in
I
the ass. And we're not
know.
laughing at you, but I am laughing at the production value of most catheter commercials.
Honestly, guys, get it together.
It doesn't make you want to use the product all that much.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, he
They're
does do
trying.
some really kick-ass acrobatic things in the airplane afterwards, but in general, you're not aspiring to be that gentleman.
No. You know, my dad had a catheter for a little bit.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. 'Cause
Why?
he had like a some issue, prostate.
Oh, he had a prostate
I think it was
thing.
enlarged or something.
Ooh.
No, he almost died. They were
Whoa.
they were like in Florida. They were driving home, but it's like 8 hours, and he wasn't peeing. He couldn't pee. He wasn't peeing for
Like
like
father,
days.
like daughter.
I know, but he recognized it was a problem, and then they went to the hospital, and it was like,
He was
They were-
full to the max.
yeah, they were like, this is really dangerous.
Oh, my goodness. Maybe your prostate is enlarged.
Maybe
You need a
That's
digital
what it
rectal
is.
exam to see if it's
I
enlarged.
just don't drink enough water.
That I wish you did.
Me too.
Yeah.
Although we had a guest on recently that told me that she just learned that drinking water is bad for you.
Oh, come on now. Come on.
I don't want to laugh.
I'm sure
because
we'll
she
have an
probably
expert on
knows.
soon enough that does tell
I
us that.
know. Maybe water's bad for you. Maybe not. Water, don't sue us.
That's all the facts.
Yeah,
Will you come over tonight?
sure.
Yeah?
I have plans.
Okay.
Think about how easy it will be if I live across the street.
Oh my God. We got to get Elon Musk to build us a tunnel.
Yeah.
He's got that boring company. He could probably bang it out in a weekend.